Our Prime Minister, Yitzhak Shamir, one of our greatest Prime Minister, in my opinion, he understood two important things. Number one, the greatest threat to the state of Israel was Western efforts to take land away from us. And he understood that the Palestinians are the weapon of the West to do that. They're the excuse why it's just for us to give up part of our land, right? It makes a lot more sense than us giving it to Jordan and Egypt, right? And therefore, it was important to Shamir to make sure that Palestinians have a good life here together with us and that we can ultimately live together in one state. That was kind of Shamir's trajectory. And I think the same needs to be if we believe that this entire land should be Israel and there should only be one state here, then, and that we have a responsibility to ensure that there's justice in the entire land, which I think we do, then we have to find a way to live together with the Palestinians and to find a way to live together in a way that works for them. That it doesn't only achieve our aspirations, but also their aspirations. And I think that those of us who are fully living the Jewish story, especially in the Yehuda and the Levi and maybe Shimon camp, are probably the most equipped to do so because our aspirations are so not dependent on what Palestinians say and do. Meaning, like, we want the same thing that Rabbi Akiva wanted. We want the same thing that Mattityahu Hashmonai wanted. We want the same thing that David Melech wanted. Like, that's what we're trying to create here. Palestinians are peripheral to that. Meaning, if we're going to talk about the Jews of the West Bank, the Jews of Judea and Samaria, what do we want? Like, or how do we see this? How do we see ourselves, right? It's very simple. We see ourselves as part of an ancient people that was unjustly displaced from our land, somehow managed to maintain our identity for thousands of years, came back to life, came back to our land against all odds, retook possession of our land, and now the entire international community is trying to displace us again through a two-state solution, right? And the only means of resistance we figured out so far is to populate as many mountaintops as possible to make it logistically impossible to move us. I think that's good. I've been part of that strategy for 2 decades already in East Jerusalem, on different mountaintops in the West Bank. But I think we need to do something in addition to that. And I think it means engaging with Palestinians and finding a way to live together in a way that also works for them. And that requires us to actually understand who they are.
What way will work for them?
So
what do they want? First of all, I have to say, if you don't mind, your interview with Walid CM, the one that you did, you had a video of it. Do you remember the conversation? It was from last year, 1 year ago.
Okay.
He's a peace activist that lives in Ramallah.
Oh, right, okay.
Right? It was a beautiful conversation, and it only got like 300 views. I think it was amazing. It should have thousands.
You got to send it to me.
Yeah, it was a beautiful conversation, and if every Palestinian was like him, then we would be going in the right trajectory. But what they want, or what they say they want, is something that we can't give them.
Well, my experience, I've been working with Palestinians since 2009, right? And a lot of different types,
right.
From different camps, different tribes in their society. They're also a tribal society, different groups, different sectors. Right. In my experience, what the majority want is to live as an equal citizen in a democratic state between the river and the sea, and not to feel that they're being othered or marginalized or oppressed in some way because of their ethnicity, nationality, or religion. To feel that they have everything the Jews have in the same state, and to be an equal citizen in the same state.
Don't we want the same thing?
I think I don't know if we want the same thing. Meaning, I don't know if that's an aspiration of the Jewish people, but it might be something we can live with. And I think that it might be. Look, we have to ask ourselves, what is a ger Toshav, right? What does it mean for a non-Jew to live in the Jewish state? Like, what does that look like in the 21st century? Because we haven't had the concept of Ger Toshav in thousands of years, just like we haven't known what a Jewish army was for thousands of years. We had to figure it out again, right? And we're still figuring it out.
Right.
So I think that this issue of Ger Toshav is something, it's a sugya that we need to really unpack. We really need to and we have to ask ourselves, whatever the halachic answer is on what a Ger Toshav looks like in the 21st century, can we stretch that? Meaning in times where there's a national need, whether it's on Shemitah, whether it's on ribit, like interest, like we've had situations where our Chachamim stretch the halacha in such a way that that allows to meet our collective need at the moment, right? So if we decide that it's a need of our people to create a situation where Palestinians are equal citizens in our state and they have everything that we have, again, we're not going to melt into one people. We're very connected to our identities. Part of what I think we need to create here is a model for how deeply tribal identities can live together in one land without diluting themselves, right? We have that with the Jerusalem a little bit. We can have it with the Palestinians too if we do it right. But I think we should try to figure out a way to make the halacha of what a Ger Toshav would be in the 21st century meet what Palestinians say they want. And to see if we can figure out a way for us both to get what we want. Because that's ultimately the goal from my perspective. We're living in two different movies, and I want to see both movies have a happy ending. And I think that the way our sages understand truth is different from how Western civilization understands truth. I mean, that's one of the differences between our ideological paradigm and theirs. You know, in Western civilization, truth is very dualistic. You're right or I'm right. In the Talmud, it's not like that. In the Kabbalistic literature, it's not like that. There's a way to say that this is true and that's true in different ways. There might also be some falsehood, right? But I think the Palestinian story is by and large a true story. The story they're experiencing is a real story. What they say about us is not true. Our story is also very much a real story, obviously. What we say about them is not true. And I think that instead of us both playing the fantasy and antagonists in each other's story, which is what we're doing, right? We're not fighting each other. We're fighting our idea of who the other is, how they show up in our story, right? But instead of fighting our fantasy antagonist of the other, we can try to understand each other. And this is why I was engaged in peace work for so long. I was really just looking to, first of all, create relationships between the Jews and Palestinians who live close to each other in the West Bank, but also because I see one of the greatest barriers to reconciliation being the fact that we don't know each other. We don't understand each other, and we're superimposing identities on each other and motivations on each other that have nothing to do with what the other wants. And so I think instead of continuing to do that and fighting past each other, right, and with counterproductive methods of struggle, we should actually get to know the other. And even if we want to defeat them, even if the goal is to destroy them, we both have an incentive to actually understand who the other is. It's what we call opposition research. It's part of any war, right? Like we should know who they are. And once we know who they are and what they really want, we can decide if that works for us or not. But right now, we're not even dealing with who they really are. And they're not dealing with who we really are. We're just fighting our fantasies of each other.